Hey, everybody, and thanks for coming back for episode 2 with Real Life for Richard. Just a brief explanation. Throughout the other one, I was saying episode 0 and 1. The original introductory episode officially was supposed to be 0, but little did I know at the time the software, the platform that I'm using, Spotify, to archive my podcast will only allow 1, 2, 3. So I couldn't do a 0. So this would be episode 2, and I've entitled this Fundamental. Fundamental. Get it? So while my wife and I were dating, I told her when we were getting more serious and it looked like we would get married. I told her, I said, my family puts the fun in dysfunction. And although it was kind of a play on word and a bit of a said in a joking way, I was completely serious about that in some of the I measure of dysfunction that we have in our family, like many others. I have learned the importance of having fun in the mental. So, in the fundamentals of mental health, why not have some fun with it? And of course, if for those of you who are getting to know me as we go through this, I am a comedian. Although I haven't been on stage as a comic in a while, comics, we have an ability to see humor in almost anything. So I don't want to make light of a serious matter like mental health, but I do want to make the point, thus this episode, fundamental is to have fun in your mental health while you're going through. Because if you live long enough, we all will go through at some point something. So try to have as much fun as possible. This side note, I'm slightly off script, but I remember these preachers from this other church once. They were out, they were just giggling and laughing, and I engaged them. This is literally probably easily 20 years ago. And I said, you all seem to be having a lot of fun. And they basically collectively said, as a practice, as a way of life, they embrace every opportunity to laugh and enjoy the moment because life is going to throw and give you tough enough times anyway, soon enough. So I said in the introduction episode that I'll be sharing different things about my life. Excuse me. First one I chose to share um, here in 2024 is, excuse me, easily I would say this one is the one that I've suffered for the longest and the greatest, and that's loneliness. I listened to Dr. David Jeremiah. I'm pretty sure it was Dr. David Jeremiah. He did a 2-part series on loneliness. And when he got going in the first of the two messages, 2-part series, it's just like he was spot on. But when he got to the second part, he started talking about how you can break the cycle of loneliness by, joining this ministry, joining this group, to being around these people. And I said, oh, he kind of lost me there. So I'm going to go in, and I have notes because I want to make sure I get this, because I want to define this from my perspective so you get it. My wife and I were talking a couple of days ago, and she asked me to define something in my own words without the aid of a dictionary or looking it up. Like, what does that mean to you? So here is what loneliness means to me. Loneliness for me has never been an issue for access to people, as I'll discover that I will share with you later on. But I define it this way: loneliness is to be fundamentally be misunderstood, yet lacking the ability to communicate a way to allow any better understanding. To fundamentally be misunderstood, yet lacking the ability to communicate a way to allow any better understanding. Likewise, I told my wife early in our marriage, I said, the perfect epithet or inscription on my headstone would be, here lies the most loved, misunderstood man to ever live. Immediately. Friends and family who listen to this, they jump in, oh, they say, oh yeah, Richard, we understand you, we get you. And I say, yeah, that's just it. I genuinely believe that others think they do, but when we dig in and we start talking, I say, yeah, I think they're missing it. So again, loneliness for me has never ever. So in the traditional sense, I get it. Our 5-year-old, our daughter, is the only child, and she said here recently that she felt lonely, that she wanted some friends to come over and play. As I describe a little bit more, as we dig a little deeper, again, loneliness for me has never ever been a matter of access to people. As far back as the 8th grade is the best I can recall it, at South Pike Junior High, I formed a phrase that I call being lonely in a crowd. And for those South Pike graduates, people from Pike County who are listening to this and who might have a copy of Ken Blocker's book, When Can I Get Naked? In that book, I made such an impact on him in junior high that years later, when he wrote that book, he dedicated a poem to that concept of being lonely in a crowd. Ken easily, when we were teenagers and growing up, was easily one of the most popular people, not just in our community, but Ken went on to Alcorn to become a drum major, and he used to dance on Black Gold, so he was known in Jackson and throughout Mississippi, very popular. And yet, when we were teenagers, he identified with the expression of being lonely in a crowd, because even all of these people around, I got access to people, but that feeling of being misunderstood and lacking the ability to express to others in a way that they can better understand makes for a feeling of loneliness. I feel most at peace and less lonely when I'm by myself. I feel less lonely and more at peace when I'm by myself, especially in the mountains. When I was in college, I call it QT with ME, as in quality time with me, quality time by myself. And nowadays, I find that harder and harder to achieve nowadays. Now, even when dealing with grief or grieving, when I was actively pastoring and ministering to grieving families, I would often say to them that we all grieve differently. We all grieve in our own way. The Robinsons on my mama's side of the family, we pass out, we cry, shout till we get carried out of the church. We recover, go to the repast, we laugh and talk about it and have fun memories. And now that we're in January 24th of this year will be the 10th anniversary of my mother passing. And I clearly remember, even that night, I was physically present in the hospital room at Beecham Memorial Hospital, where my mother had worked for approximately 30 years. And when she passed away, it's just like everything went in overdrive, fast mode. People start calling, coming by the house, and the house, everything's a blur. You hear people say everything's a blur. But I remember then and in that moment that I need solitude to even start, to officially start the grieving process, the healing process for me. And I knew if I had told my siblings, they would have held me captive and wouldn't let me get back on the road from Pike County heading back to Jackson, Mississippi. So while everybody in a moment of distraction, my mom passed, if I remember correctly, around 6 p.m., 6-ish that evening. And just like now, it's January, how it gets dark around 5 o'clock. So it was dark out. So some 5 hours later, it was after 1 a.m. that morning, while everybody was distracted and processing their own grief, I got on the road and I came back to Jackson, Mississippi, and I was in Jackson for a couple of days by myself. I just needed to compartmentalize, unpack, start the healing process, to be by myself in that solitude. I couldn't, I don't think I could have done as well in that space. And by the grace of God, a few days later, we actually had a winter storm that year, but I was able to stand up and to deliver the eulogy. Couldn't have done that if I didn't have that period of time, solitude by myself. What I'm saying here now, I'm only mentioning, but this is kind of be a forte for something to come in the future. But a brief mention of my birthday. Birthdays are no different. It's been a real challenge for me for some time, but I have never celebrated my birthday in the traditional sense with people gathering around, cakes and candles. I don't like cake. That's just not me. One of my sister-in-laws say it's a stronghold. That's what it is. That may be true. I've been accused of a lot of other things, but I told you in the beginning of this episode that dealing with loneliness and a desire to be by myself, I consider it a struggle. But even in the birthday space, never traditionally celebrated a birthday, and at 53 years old, have no desire whatsoever. But here is something that I will say. I'm human too. I have feelings too, and I do like to be appreciated. This is me trying to express it. I like to be appreciated. I just don't like to be celebrated in that way. I know it may sound strange. I will travel the world over to celebrate you any way you see fit. I have traveled to other cities, stayed overnight to have surprise birthday parties for other people. Not for me. All I ever want is just really to be left alone. That's the greatest gift. Now, you say then, why am I sharing this? Great question. I also said in the introduction episode that at some point it has to be okay not to be okay. It has to be okay to embrace the abnormal, or what normal is for you. What normal is for me might not be your norm. It might not even be what's considered the norm, but it has to be okay not to be like everyone else, broken, flawed, but still desiring and deserving of others' love. Now, in 2023, I'm sitting at Chick-fil-A eating by myself, mind you, excuse me, and I overhear these teenagers teasing, no, not teasing, terrorizing another teenager, excuse me, because he desired not to have his birthday celebrated in the traditional sense. I can see the anguish that he was under while this was going on. I didn't feel it was appropriate, if you will, to intervene at that moment. But after they left, and it was just the two of us there, I leaned in and I shared with him. I said, hey, you and I are alike. Neither do I care to celebrate my birthday in the traditional sense. And it's okay to be you and to be you how you choose to be. So if you don't want to celebrate your birthday, if you don't want cake and balloons, punch, or whatever that comes with that, it's okay. And just the mere smirk on his face was rewarding enough for me that I could share that. Now, this is why I had notes, because there's certain points I wanted to make sure I didn't miss. Listen. My massage therapist shared this with me in one of my sessions. He said, you can't tell me what causes me pain. You can't tell me what causes me pain. If you love or respect someone and they courageously tell you that something hurt or causes them discomfort, stop doing it. It's unkind, it's unloving, and even if they don't say it, what do you see in their eyes? When you look into their eyes, what do their eyes say? I had this a little bit further up in my notes, but it still applies. I tell you another struggle, but this will be a subject for another day. I am a bit of a control freak. Even with the birthday thing or talking about loneliness, how dare I consider myself dictating to others how I'm to be loved? But at some point, you have to be courageous enough to express not only what makes you feel good, but what causes you pain. If something causes another pain or discomfort, is it really love? If that person courageously shares that with you, it's not love. About a year ago, and this is another note. I'll share this and I'm going to wrap this message up. But even in the space where I am now, I don't like receiving material gifts. I used to call it decluttering, and I discovered these guys call them the minimalists. So I'm trying to learn to live this minimalist lifestyle, but I just don't like being wasteful. I don't like receiving things that I know I don't want or that I won't use. So about a year ago, one of my best friends, Kelvin Andre Moore, sent me this very elaborate, lovely, expensive watch. He was excited about sending it. He kept having me check the mail to make sure I received it. And when I received it and opened it up, I thought to myself, oh my God, At one glance, I knew I couldn't and wouldn't accept it. I don't wear watches. I don't wear any jewelry, short that of my wedding band. I don't wear watches. I don't wear jewelry. So it took me approximately 5 variations, of trying to draft a letter in about 2 days to express how grateful I was for the thought, but that I could not receive this lavish gift. I don't wear jewelry. I don't wear watches. I sent it to him, and he responded in a very appropriate and loving way. And that's when I knew he was my brother and my friend. He just simply said, "My bad. Richard, I forgot you don't even wear watches. Send it back to me and I'll find something else to do with it. Thank you." Thanks to my brother. To God be the glory. Last year, going into the holiday season, likewise, finally had enough courage to even say to my wife, "Stop buying me material gifts." Now let Richard be real clear here. I don't like material gifts. You can send me cash in any form possible. I take PayPal, Cash App, Zelle, whatever. I'll figure out a way to receive money, but I don't like material gifts. If you love me, don't send me anything material. Nothing. Whatever you're thinking, I don't want a material gift. So I share that with my wife, and she says, "Okay, we'll figure out other ways to celebrate other things or to celebrate you." But she honored my request. That's loving. So here are my closing questions and takeaway for this. What is something you can do to make your mental health better? Question number 2, what might you stop doing because you think it makes others more comfortable? I failed to make this note, but I'll make it now, and this is a great segue. I am becoming far more comfortable with others being uncomfortable with the decisions that I make for my better mental and emotional well-being. I am becoming more comfortable with others being uncomfortable with the decisions I make for my better mental health and well-being. If this has been helpful for you, if this has been helpful for you in any way, I ask that you share it with others, and remember the fundamentals to have fun while we're increasing and improving our better mental health. Again, this is Richard L. Scott with Real Life with Richard, and I'm praying for your success and your well-being, wishing you nothing but the best in 2024. God bless.